Today, I'd like to speak to you about an unlikely saint. First, let me tell you who she was, Dorothy Day. She said about one part of our gospel today, I'm not sure we read it today, this was a short and a long form, but I looked at the long form, and she said this about faith being compared to a mustard seed. This was Jesus' own comparison. She said, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. My faith may be the size of a mustard seed, but even so, even aside from its potential, it both brings with it a beginning of love, an inclination to love so intense that human love, with all its heights and depths, pales in comparison." Faith leads to love. Dorothy Day was born in 1896 but died in 1980, just this past century. Some of you weren't born then, but some of us older people knew who she was. She was really an unlikely saint. She was born into a nominally Protestant family and led what you say would be a bohemian life. That's what it means today, is like hipster's life today. A bohemian life is one which has no reference to morality or religion. You might say that Dorothy Day was a radical. She was a woman who fought for women's rights to vote, which was not possible in her time. And by the time she was 22, Dorothy had had an abortion and a failed relationship. The birth of her daughter, Tamar, born in 1926, from a common law marriage, brought Dorothy great happiness, but also led her to baptize her daughter. And with that, her companion left her. She was a single parent who raised her daughter the best she could by being a freelance journalist. But in 1932, she met an extraordinary man from France, Peter Morin, and together they began what still exists today, the Catholic Worker newspaper. It's not only a newspaper, but also a movement which has over 126 Catholic worker houses throughout the world. But Dorothy was not just a woman of words. The houses of hospitality that she began where the poor, where drug addicts, where alcoholics, all were welcomed, began in 1933, and still today, 220 exist. And so Dorothy, what she said about faith being the size of a mustard seed was also true about leading to love, because love grows when we have faith. Love by itself can lead us in the wrong directions. As young people today, you live in a world where there is much confusion about morality and about the right thing to do in our world. Our culture does not support what we teach as Catholic Christians. Recently, Dorothy Day was proposed for sainthood. As I said before, she's really an unlikely saint. She was one who perhaps at an early age would never have been considered for sainthood. But Dorothy Day said something wonderful about sainthood. Quoting a French philosopher, Léon Bloy, she once said, "There is only one sadness, not to be a saint." When it was announced that Dorothy Day was being proposed for sainthood, many objected. They felt that she did not merit such an honor, as if being a saint was just an honor. Probably it was true. She wasn't typical of what we think saints are, but she's one who really understood what sainthood was about. Sainthood is being like God. Sainthood is like welcoming all as God does. To be a saint is to be a friend of God, simply said. To be a saint is to show God's love to others that sometimes is difficult but is within our reach. We need to show God to others in some extraordinary way if we want to be saints. The ordinary things we do can become extraordinary if we do them for the love of God. The late Cardinal John O'Connor said that Dorothy Day was not a gingerbread saint or a holy card saint, but a modern-day saint devoted as a daughter of the church. I bring the life of Dorothy Day to your attention because I believe that many young people give up too early on their path to holiness and sainthood. They are disappointed in themselves. They feel that they've failed in some way. They have not lived up to the moral code that was taught them, or perhaps they don't even know what the right thing to do was. They feel marginalized, somehow not worthy to be a saint or even to do anything good or heroic, because somehow they do not recognize their own greatness. There is a difference between sainthood and heroism. Just last week here in Queens, 2 men saw a burning car and they jumped to extricate the man who was stuck in there. That's heroism. You don't think about it, you just do it. That's heroism. But sainthood takes a lot longer to do. It's not just the moment, not just that inspiration of a moment that makes a saint, but it's a lifetime that's dedicated to helping others and finding our way to God. We had a survey taken up here with this university. St. John's helped us do a vocation survey to find out the obstacles that young people might have in responding to a vocation to the priesthood or religious life. We had 1,400 respondents, seniors and juniors in high school and college people. It was amazing what we found out. The first more important thing is that nobody ever asked them to consider priesthood or religious life. Today you're going to be asked. The Franciscan priest here, who's been animating this thing, is going to ask you to come up here and declare that you are interested. It doesn't mean that you're going to do it, but it does mean that somehow that idea touched you. In fact, 10% of our Catholic young people have been touched by this desire to do something with their lives for God, to be a priest or a religious sister or brother. But one of the things we also found out in this survey is that most of the young people did not think they were worthy to be a priest or religious sister or brother. Somehow their past life haunted them. They felt that they already had ruined their lives. But you know the secret? God has a very short memory. He only looks to the future about our lives, not to the past. Everything can be forgiven. It's the future that really God looks for us to find our way to Him. If we strayed in the past, that's the past. It's over. We must set our sights high in life, whatever our vocation, to married life, priesthood, or religious life. Each one of us is called to a life of goodness and love, to imitate the great love of God Himself. Dorothy Day can be a great model for our own day and age. Her path to sainthood has started, at least officially, but most people consider her to be a saint. She was extraordinary in what she did for other people and how she sacrificed her lives for others. She lived in the Bowery here in New York, where all of the alcoholics and drug addicts of the past gathered. Now it's become more gentrified, unfortunately. There's no place for them to go. She clothed the naked. She sheltered the homeless. All things she did personally, living her daily life, even at times giving up her own bed so that the homeless could have a place to sleep. Dorothy Day was truly a saint of our times. Valiant, although she was broken in many ways, she was healed by God's grace. Yes, your faith at this time, we may say, is the size of a mustard seed. Jesus used that image Himself. A mustard seed is such a tiny seed, it's even hard to see. But when it grows, it can become a tree, as Jesus said, and the birds of the air can make their nest in it. From a small bit of faith, such great things can come. The parables in today's gospel are all about the seed being sowed in the field, the seed that grows among the weeds. But at the end, there will be a separation of the good from the bad. It is the destiny that we have is to produce fruit, good fruit, planted by the Lord in our lives. And the grace of God overcomes everything. God changes us to be what he originally wanted us to be. Good seeds to make the kingdom of God grow. Shortly, we will celebrate the Eucharist on this altar. The Eucharist is what gives us strength and courage to continue life even when we think we've lost our path in seeking God's kingdom. Jesus told us the kingdom of God is within us. It's already there. We have to discover it. Yes, the power to make God's kingdom grow in each one of us comes to us through the Eucharist. The seed entrusted to us is given to us to make it grow, and so that God's kingdom can be visible in the world. Each one of us is an evangelizer. Each one of us brings the good news of Jesus to the world. So take heart. Be courageous. Remember, the only true sadness is that one has not become a saint.